Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. Don't look at me like that. Kaylin, you knew the rules when you signed the contract. Midnight to 4, no questions, no strings. The words cut through the heavy silence of the penthouse suite like a serrated blade, colder than the condensation dripping down the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. Kaylin stood by the mahogany door, his fingers trembling as he buttoned his shirt, the silk feeling like sandpaper against his skin. Across the room, Darius sat on the edge of the sprawling bed, his silhouette framed by the city lights, the sheet pooling around his waist, looking like a fallen god indifferent to the devastation he had just caused. "Is that all I am?" Kaylin whispered, the taste of copper in his mouth. "Just a remedy for your insomnia?" Darius didn't answer. He simply reached for the crystal tumbler of whiskey on the nightstand, the ice clinking, a sound that signaled dismissal. Kaylin swallowed the lump in his throat, grabbed his coat, and walked out, the heavy click of the lock sealing his heart shut. To understand the end, one must understand the desperate beginning. 6 months prior, Kaylin was nothing more than a ghost in the machine of Vantage Holdings, one of the city's most ruthless architectural firms. He was a junior intern, drowning in student loans and the medical bills for his grandmother's dialysis. He was talented, possessing an eye for structural fluidity that his superiors lacked, but in a corporate hierarchy built on nepotism, talent was merely a resource to be mined by those with the right last names. Darius Van Acker was the name on the building. At 32, he was the youngest CEO in the industry, a man rumored to have ice water in his veins. He was strikingly beautiful in a terrifying way. Sharp jawline, eyes the color of stormy seas, and a presence that sucked the air out of boardrooms. He was a predator in a bespoke three-piece suit. Their worlds shouldn't have collided. But fate, cruel and calculating, intervened on a Tuesday night. Kaylin was working late, the only light on the 42nd floor coming from his dual monitors. He was fixing a rendering error made by a senior architect who had left hours ago for drinks. "You're changing the load-bearing calculations." The voice came from the shadows. Kaylin nearly jumped out of his skin, spinning his chair around to find Darius standing there. The CEO looked disheveled, tie loosened, top button undone, hair slightly mussed. It was 2 a.m. "Sir," Kaylin stammered, standing up so quickly his chair rolled back and hit the file cabinet. The original specs were off. If we poured the concrete as planned, the atrium would crack within 5 years." Darius stepped into the light. He didn't look at the screen. He looked at Kaylin. His gaze was intense, analytical, as if he were dissecting a blueprint. "And why are you fixing it? It's not your project. Let them fail." "Because it's my name on the bottom of the email sending the file," Kaylin said, finding a sudden, stupid courage. "And I actually care about the building." Darius smirked, a microscopic shift of facial muscles that somehow felt dangerous. "You're the scholarship kid, the one with the debts." It wasn't a question. Darius knew everything. "I need a personal assistant," Darius said abruptly. "Not for the office. For the after hours. My schedule is erratic. I require discretion. I'm an architect, sir, not a secretary." Darius walked closer, invading Kaylin's personal space until Kaylin could smell expensive scotch and sandalwood. "I'm not asking you to file papers, Kaylin. I'm asking for your time. High stress requires release. I need someone available. Someone who needs money more than they need pride." The implication hung in the air, thick and suffocating. It was a proposition. A transaction. Asterisk quick. Efficient. Transactional. Asterisk. "How much?" Kaylin asked, his voice barely a whisper, thinking of the overdue notices on his kitchen table. Darius named a figure that made Kaylin's knees weak. It was enough to clear his debts in 3 months. "One condition," Darius added, his voice dropping an octave. "No feelings. You come when I call. You leave when I say. We do not discuss this in the daylight." Kaylin looked into those cold, gray eyes and made a deal with the devil. Deal. The arrangement was simple until it wasn't. For the first month, it was exactly as Darius had promised. Kaylin would receive a text message, sometimes a location, usually the penthouse, and he would go. The encounters were intense, fueled by a frenetic energy that felt less like intimacy and more like an exorcism. Darius took what he needed with a hunger that bordered on desperation, and Kaelin, starved for touch and overwhelmed by the older man's dominance, gave everything. Darius was a man of few words during these nights. He was commanding, possessive, his hands mapping Kaelin's body as if he were memorizing a landscape. But the moment the sun threatened the horizon, the wall went up. Kaelin was dismissed. But biology is a traitor, and the heart is a fool. It started with the rain. It was the 3rd month. A typhoon was battering the city, turning the streets into rivers. Kaelin had arrived at the penthouse at midnight, soaked to the bone despite his umbrella. Darius opened the door, but instead of the usual hunger in his eyes, there was exhaustion. The CEO looked haggard, pale, his hands shaking slightly. "Go home," Darius rasped, turning away. "Not tonight." Kaelin should have left. That was the rule. But he saw the way Darius stumbled against the hallway console. Instinct overrode the contract. Kaelin dropped his bag and rushed forward, catching Darius just as his knees gave out. Darius was burning up. "A fever." "Get off," Darius growled, though there was no strength in the push. "I don't need." "Shut up," Kaelin said softly, maneuvering the larger man toward the bedroom. The power dynamic shifted in that instant. The titan of industry was human, mortal, and crumbling. Kaelin spent the next 6 hours not in Darius's bed as a lover, but by his side as a caretaker. He fetched cold compresses, forced Darius to drink water, and changed the sweat-soaked sheets. At around 4 a.m., the fever broke. Darius lay awake, staring at the ceiling, while Kaelin sat in the armchair, reading a book by the dim light of a lamp. "Why are you still here?" Darius asked. His voice was rough, stripped of its usual armor. "The storm," Kaelin lied, not looking up. "Taxis aren't running." Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't the cold silence of the boardroom. It was heavy with something else. "My mother died in a storm like this," Darius said suddenly. Kaelin lowered the book. This was a violation of the rules. Personal history was forbidden. "She was waiting for my father to come home," Darius continued, his eyes unfocused. "He never did. He was with his other family. I learned young that waiting for people is a waste of time. Relying on them is a weakness." "Not everyone is your father, Darius," Kaelin said softly. Darius turned his head on the pillow, looking at Kaelin with an expression Kaelin couldn't decipher. It looked like fear. "You should go, Kaelin, before you think this means something." "Does it?" Darius closed his eyes. "No." But the next week, when Kaelin arrived, there was dinner waiting. It was takeout, high-end Thai food, sitting on the glass table. "Eat," Darius commanded, loosening his tie. "You look too thin." The lines began to blur. They started talking. First about architecture, debating brutalism versus neoclassicism until the early hours. Then about their lives. Kaelin spoke of his grandmother, of his dreams to design sustainable housing. Darius spoke of the pressure of the board, the vultures waiting for him to slip. The sex changed, too. It became slower. The urgency was replaced by a terrifying intimacy. Darius started kissing him. Deep, lingering kisses that felt like confessions. He started holding Kaelin after, his arm draped heavy and possessive over Kaelin's waist, keeping him there until the alarm went off. Kaelin fell in love. It was inevitable. He fell for the man who hid behind the monster. But in the world of the elite, secrets are currency, and Kaelin was a liability. The crash came 6 months in. The Vantage annual gala was the event of the season. Kaelin was there as staff, holding a clipboard, ensuring the seating arrangements were perfect. Darius was there as the king, flanked by socialites and investors. Kaelin watched from the shadows of the ballroom, his heart aching. In the dark of the penthouse, he was Darius's anchor. Here, he was invisible. "Quite the tragic figure, aren't you?" Kaelin turned to see Elias Thorne, a rival developer and one of Darius's board members. Elias had a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir, I see the way you look at him," Elias whispered, stepping closer, swirling his champagne. "Does he pay you well? Or is it charity work?" Kaelin's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you mean." "Oh, please. I have eyes. I've seen you entering his building at ungodly hours." The intern and the CEO. It's a tale as old as time. Elias leaned in, his breath smelling of caviar and malice. "Here's a tip, boy. Darius is merging with the granddaughter of the mayor next month. It's a business marriage." A strategic alliance to secure the downtown project. You're just a stain he'll need to scrub out before the wedding photos. The world tilted. A merger? Marriage? Kaylin looked across the room. Darius was laughing at something a stunning woman in a red dress said. The mayor's granddaughter. He had a hand on the small of her back. Kaylin felt bile rise in his throat. He dropped the clipboard. The clatter echoed, but the music swallowed it. He turned and ran. He didn't go to the penthouse that night. He ignored the text at midnight. Where are you? He ignored the call at 1 a.m. He ignored the second call at 2 a.m. The next morning, Kaylin walked into HR and slapped his resignation letter on the desk. He couldn't breathe in that building anymore. When he returned to his small apartment, Darius was waiting. He was leaning against his black sedan parked in front of Kaylin's crumbling building, looking out of place in his Italian suit against the graffiti-stained walls. Get in the car, Darius said, his voice low and dangerous. No, Kaylin said, gripping his bag strap. I quit. The job. The contract. Everything. Darius closed the distance in 2 strides, grabbing Kaylin's arm. You don't get to just walk away. We had an agreement. The agreement was for sex, Darius. Kaylin shouted, not caring about the neighbors. Not for me to be your dirty little secret while you plan a wedding. Darius froze. His grip loosened slightly. Who told you? Does it matter? Is it true? Darius looked away, his jaw clenching. It's complicated. The board is pressuring me. The merger is necessary for the company's survival. It's a business arrangement, Kaylin. It has nothing to do with us. Us. Kaylin laughed, a broken, watery sound. There is no us, Darius. You made sure of that. No strings, remember? You're marrying a woman for power, and you want to keep me on the side for what? Comfort? To warm your bed when the corporate world gets too cold. I can give you everything, Darius said, his voice taking on a desperate edge. I'll pay off the apartment. I'll set up a studio for you. You'll never have to work again. Kaylin slapped him. The sound cracked through the humid air. Darius's head snapped to the side. He looked shocked, touching his cheek. I am not a whore, Kaylin hissed, tears streaming down his face. And I am not your father's mistress. I loved you. That was my mistake. But I won't let you turn me into something I hate. Kaylin turned and walked into his building. He expected Darius to follow, to break down the door. But he didn't. The engine roared to life, and the car sped away. 3 weeks of silence. Kaylin found a job at a small, family-run firm. The pay was terrible, but the air was clean. He tried to forget the smell of sandalwood. He tried to forget the way Darius's gray eyes softened in the morning light before the masks went back on. But the universe wasn't done with them. Kaylin was on a site visit for his new job, a renovation of an old warehouse district. It was a rough neighborhood. As he was leaving, walking to the bus stop, a black van screeched onto the sidewalk. Before Kaylin could react, 3 men jumped out. He struggled, landing a punch, but a cloth soaked in something chemical was pressed over his nose. The world went black. When he woke, he was tied to a chair in a derelict room. Elias Thorne was sitting opposite him, checking his watch. So predictable, Elias sighed. I told the board Darius was unstable, that his little obsession with you was a liability. But they didn't believe me. So I have to prove it. What do you want? Kaylin choked out, his head pounding. I want Darius to make a choice. The merger, or you. If he comes for you, he misses the signing ceremony happening in, Elias checked his watch, 40 minutes. If he misses the signing, the stock plummets, the board votes no confidence, and I take over as CEO. If he stays, well, you disappear, and he's broken enough that I can manipulate him anyway. He won't come, Kaylin whispered, feeling a cold certainty. He chooses the building. Always. Let's see. Elias pulled out a phone and dialed. He put it on speaker. Darius Van Acker. The voice was cold, professional. Darius. I have your stray puppy, Elias said casually. Silence. Then, a voice so terrifyingly calm it sounded demonic. If you touch a hair on his head, Elias, I will burn your lineage to the ground. Bold talk. The signing is in 30 minutes. You're across town. You can't make both. Choose. The line went dead. Elias laughed. He hung up. See. Smart businessman. Kaylin closed his eyes. He knew it. He had always known it. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Elias was pacing, looking triumphant. Then a sound. The roar of an engine, getting louder, screaming like a wounded beast. Crash. The wall of the warehouse exploded inward. A sleek black sports car, Darius's Aston Martin, smashed through the corrugated metal and rotting wood, debris flying everywhere. The car spun 180 degrees, tires smoking, stopping inches from Elias. Chaos erupted. Elias's hired thugs pulled guns, but the driver's door flew open. Darius emerged. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was in shirt sleeves, holding a tire iron, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. He didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a warlord. Back off. Elias screamed, stumbling back. Darius didn't speak. He moved with brutal efficiency. He swung the iron, taking the first thug down at the knees. The second thug hesitated. Darius Van Acker was a public figure. Killing him was not part of the pay grade. That hesitation cost him. Darius disarmed him with a savage elbow to the face. Elias fumbled for a gun in his jacket, but sirens wailed in the distance. Darius had called the police before he went rogue. Darius ignored Elias completely. He dropped the iron and ran to Kalen, falling to his knees. His hands, usually so steady, were shaking violently as he untied the ropes. "Did they hurt you?" Darius asked, his voice frantic, checking Kalen's face, his arms. "Kalen, look at me. Are you hurt?" "You missed the signing," Kalen whispered, still in shock. "The merger?" "Fuck the merger," Darius growled, pulling Kalen into a bone-crushing embrace. He buried his face in Kalen's neck, breathing him in. "Fuck the company. Let Elias have it. Let it all burn." "You don't mean that." Darius pulled back, gripping Kalen's face between his hands. There was blood on Darius's lip, dust in his hair, but his eyes were clear. "I spent my whole life building a fortress to keep people out because I thought power was the only thing that couldn't leave me. But when you left, the fortress became a prison." Tears spilled from Darius's eyes, the first time Kalen had ever seen him cry. "I can build another company," Darius said, his forehead resting against Kalen's. "I cannot build another you. I love you, Kalen. Not for the night. Not for the secret. I love you in the daylight. I love you in the ruin." Kalen looked at the man who had driven a car through a wall for him. The cold, transactional Darius was gone. This was a man stripped bare. "You wrecked your car." Kalen laughed through his tears, a hysterical, relieved sound. "I'll buy you a new one," Darius promised, kissing him, not a hungry kiss, but a desperate, worshipping seal of a promise. "I'll buy you the whole damn fleet." The scandal was immense. The CEO vigilante headlines ran for weeks. Darius lost the merger. He was temporarily suspended by the board. It was the best thing that ever happened to him. 3 months later, Kalen stood on the balcony of a new apartment, a loft in the Arts District. It wasn't a penthouse, but it was theirs. The morning sun was warm, casting golden light over the drafting table where Kalen's sketches were spread out. Strong arms wrapped around him from behind. Darius rested his chin on Kalen's shoulder. He looked relaxed, younger. He had started his own boutique firm, taking only projects that excited him. Kalen was his partner, in business and in life. "Coffee," Darius murmured, pressing a kiss to the sensitive spot behind Kalen's ear. In a minute, Kalen leaned back into the embrace. "I'm just admiring the view." "I'm admiring mine," Darius said, his hands splaying over Kalen's chest, over his heart. There were no contracts. No midnight deadlines. No secrets. "By the way," Kalen grinned, turning in his arms. "I have a meeting with a client at noon. So, MABILIS Lang. Just a quick one." Darius laughed, a rich, genuine sound that rumbled in his chest. He swept Kalen off his feet, carrying him toward the bedroom. "For you, my love. We have all the time in the world." And that is how the architect dismantled the tyrant, brick by brick, until only the man remained. If you enjoyed seeing Darius burn his empire for love, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a lover who treated you like a secret to protect his ambition? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art. 2 men, BL, Yaoi, man 1. Darius, tall, muscular build, sharp features, gray eyes, disheveled black hair, wearing white dress shirt with sleeves rolled up, blood on lip, intense desperate expression, kneeling. Man 2. Kaylin, slim but toned, softer features, brown hair, wearing casual clothes, sitting on floor, looking shocked and emotional, rope marks on wrists, background is a destroyed warehouse interior, debris, dust particles in air, smashed black sports car in background, dramatic cinematic lighting, shaft of sunlight hitting the couple, emotional atmosphere, intricate details.